Should you buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 2024? Assassin's Creed Odyssey was released almost 6 years ago now and was the second RPG style game that Ubisoft made for Assassin's Creed. To say that the discourse surrounding the game during its release and to an extent even to this day was extremely mixed would be a gigantic understatement. Many of the mechanics and features packed into Odyssey made it much more of an RPG than Assassin's Creed Origins was, and in that many aspects of the franchise were seemingly lost for many people, and I was included in that sentiment. I absolutely despised this game after having put about 25 hours into it. I just hated the leveling system, the unrealistic combat, and the lack of a hidden blade that for some reason in my mind at the time constituted an inability to do stealth. Much of what I had in my original sentiment has changed now as I came back to the game a couple weeks ago, and I've really been enjoying it and have put close to 20 hours into the game. That begs the question of whether the game is worth buying in 2024, so let's get right into it. Something that is undeniable no matter what side of the discourse you are on surrounding this game is the game's absolute beauty and diversity in its environments and just the pure vastness of this open world. I believe Odyssey still boasts the largest map seen in an Assassin's Creed game, much larger than the already vast landscapes of Origins and even bigger than Valhalla. There are so many gigantic islands across the world of Greece, and the oceans themselves constitute a large part of the map, making pathways all around the islands and across the world. Assassin's Creed Odyssey really recreates the beauty of ancient Greece in a spectacular fashion. From the statues to the temples to the towns and cities, there is just so much to look and ponder at in the world of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The game is incredibly good looking and it hasn't aged a day since its release and looks just as good if not better than many of the open world games that are even releasing in this year. I've had an absolute blast traveling the seas in this game by ship, climbing and jumping around the world of ancient Greece, looking around in the interiors of temples and people's homes and climbing atop the diversified vantage points, with many of them being at the top of these gargantuan statues. The facial animations are decent as well, nothing remarkable, especially if you were to compare it to Red Dead Redemption 2, which actually released in the same month of this game. Overall, the graphical fidelity and overall presentational value of Assassin's Creed Odyssey holds up extremely well, and I'm continuously blown away by these amazing landscapes and environments that I wander into, and this is easily one of the most beautiful Assassin's Creed games to date. Of course, this section of the video will not contain any spoilers for the game's story, and I'll just be doing a brief overview of the game's narrative and will just point out the basic outlines of what makes up the larger plot in the game. I think I'll start with the obvious fact that the game does continue the modern day plot of Assassin's Creed Origins with Layla Hassan, but to be completely honest, I just don't care about the modern day plot in Assassin's Creed games, so I haven't really paid much mind to it and I honestly don't think it's very good. For the actual plot in the game, it's actually pretty interesting and I've been enjoying my time seeing the plot unfold, and the writing in this game is actually quite decent and nothing like what I remembered when I first tried to play the game when it first came out. Weirdly enough, the game is actually set 400 years before the story of Assassin's Creed Origins takes place, and if you've played Origins, as the name of the game suggests, it's the origins of the Assassin's Creed in its actual form. So if Odyssey is set before it, it's obvious that the Creed wouldn't even exist. This is kind of bizarre of a decision by Ubisoft because the game doesn't provide you with the basics, at least so far, with a hidden blade, and that's obviously because of the fact that the assassins in the form that we know them don't even exist yet. But you of course do gather plenty of hoods and whatnot, and in my gameplay you'll see throughout the video I am mostly dressed as an assassin, and the fact that the Creed doesn't exist hasn't really taken away from the stealth or the story for me in any significant way. I can't really touch on any of the specifics of the story that I enjoyed, of course for spoiler reasons, but the game does have a sort of Templar enemy group that is pretty much identical to the Templars that will give you several targets to take down throughout the story, and just as you're exploring the world you'll venture into these enemies. At the beginning of the game you can also choose between the male protagonist Alexios or the female protagonist Cassandra, and according to Ubisoft the canon choice is Cassandra, and that's kind of obvious in her voice acting and the quality of the work work here in every mission. Cassandra is a pretty likable character for the most part, and the game does have a few decisions that you can make through critical moments of the story, but these don't really have a major impact on the overall plot and isn't anything too drastic like something you'd see in a BioWare game or games of that sort. So overall, the story of Assassin's Creed Odyssey is quite enjoyable, and the characters throughout the game, including of course the protagonist Cassandra, are well written to a decent degree, and the voice acting is pretty good here, and the game has been extremely fun to watch in terms of how the plot unfolds, even if I do find it weird that the game takes place before the actual Creed even exists, and overall I'm quite excited to see how it all continues to play out. Now let's get into the gameplay and open world aspects of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey's open world, as stated in an earlier section of this video, is absolutely mesmerizing and stunning, with such diverse vistas and landmarks to explore, with an immense abundance of things to look at and to explore. From the many caves to the many temples and statues to just the beautiful ancient Greek architecture of vast towns such as Athens, Assassin's Creed Odyssey's open world environments may easily be the best the series has to offer. Also stated earlier was the pure scale of this open world environment, and even after playing close to 20 hours of the game, I feel like I haven't even touched the surface of how gigantic this map is, both in the vastness of the game's ocean environments and the denseness of the cities and the buildings that populate all of the islands you can venture onto. I've had an absolute blast exploring the open world environments of this game, and as is tradition in Assassin's Creed, the beauty of the vantage points you get to in order to synchronize a specific region might again be the best in this game opposed to any other game in the series. The pure scale of climbing the statues of these ancient Greek gods, or climbing upon the temples built for specific members of the pantheon, such as the Temple of Zeus or the Temple of Poseidon, will surely never get old. If you're looking for an open world that is not only beautiful, but is so dense and rich in what you can explore, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has that in absolute abundance. But it's not all sunshine, as just because there is a large quantity of things to do in the open world, in terms of not only the side quests but objectives that you decide to do, such as clearing out forts, caves and exploring temples, it doesn't mean that every single part of the world is filled with a sense of quality. There are some places that are more beautiful and detailed than others, such as the vast city of Athens, but many of the smaller islands and cities have environments that almost feel copy-pasted in terms of architectural design that don't make them feel too distinct, and some of these islands just blend together. This isn't a huge problem for me, as really the beauty and detail of the places that are fitted out, such as Athens and some of the other larger islands, have plenty to look at and to do, and a good portion of these are built with quality in mind, but not every island or city pays attention to the same level of quality in its side missions or forts and other objectives. Talking about forts, I think we should segue into talking about the game's extremely controversial but very fun combat system. I really am one for realism in the Assassin's Creed games, and I really do enjoy the older system of combat a lot even to this day, and I do miss the more stealth focused approaches of games pre-Assassin's Creed Origins, or even including Assassin's Creed Origins. But that doesn't mean I can't have a lot of fun with the combat systems of the RPG games. And again, Assassin's Creed Odyssey definitely leans much more into the RPG elements than what we saw with Assassin's Creed Origins. There are some truly bizarre abilities in this game, and if you're all about realism to the most absolute degree, you're not going to be all that interested in this game's combat system. But I've been able to let go of that feeling and that need for realism, and just have been really enjoying the combat in this game for what it is, and really, you are in this game a super powerful Spartan hero. Firstly, the weapon selection in this game is massive, and you'll be constantly looting all types of weapons, from different types of bows to swords, daggers, axes, spears and so on. The game is an RPG in and out, and you'll have a gigantic collection of different weapons with different rarity levels and modifiers, of which can be customized at blacksmiths to fit what you need. The same principle that I just discussed is also applicable to the game's extremely vast armor collection, and just like the weapons, you may see yourself constantly changing through different armor sets or upgrading existing ones to fit the level you are now. In addition to all of this, the game has a skill tree, and it's so much simpler and easier to read than whatever happened in Valhalla, and the upgrades and abilities are clear to read and see for yourself. You can assign multiple abilities for your combat and stealth, as well as ranged abilities, with some of the earlier ones being powerful abilities such as the Spartan kick, and even being able to infuse your sword with poison in battle to put the effect on enemies and gain an edge in battle. The game's of course got a bunch of damage numbers flying all over the screen, so if you're not a fan of that, I wouldn't recommend this game for you. As for the common complaint that the enemies are often damage sponges, I honestly have not felt that to a great degree, and if you really mix up your abilities in combat against stronger enemies and utilize the ability to upgrade your weapons, it won't take extremely long to kill any enemies. For example, in Assassin's Creed Origins, I found the bounty hunters or mercenaries much harder than in this game, and in this game I fought 4 at the same time in direct combat and have been able to kill all of them while utilizing all the tools in my disposal. Although this combat system drifts so far from the so-called realism roots of the series, it is so damn fun, and if you enjoy the combat of RPGs like this, you'll also have an absolute blast with the combat in the game. Now let's quickly talk about the game's stealth, because as an Assassin's Creed game, you definitely expect some of that to be present. Unlike Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you do get a hidden blade and the illusion of stealth in a hood and blending in crowd mechanics, that game was just never built for stealth, as the cities were so open, and the parkour of the game just wasn't built for that stealth sort of gameplay. Much like Origins, although you don't have the classic hood and the hidden blade, the environments of this game are often dense, from the forts to the cities, and there's a lot of areas to hide, and the ability to jump from vantage to vantage point is easy to do, making the stealth in this game quite a viable option in every enemy encounter. I've taken out entire gigantic forts and caves just with the use of stealth mechanics and the abilities that you can also get that are directly related to stealth. If you think this game has no stealth at all, that would be a wrong conclusion to draw, as there are so many opportunities to commit to stealth only and to blend in order to take down your targets. So yes, Assassin's Creed Odyssey does surprisingly have a lot of stealth if you want to take that route, and I've enjoyed doing only stealth while clearing out a multitude of enemy areas and locations. To conclude, yes, you should absolutely buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 2024. The game was one I personally hated for a long time, but honestly it's quite a good game, but whether it's a good Assassin's Creed game is another conversation altogether. But the story and protagonists are quite well done, with the open world being incredibly beautiful and the gameplay being a bunch of fun. It's also on sale at the moment, so I recommend you try it for yourself, and it's also on Game Pass. Anyway, that's it from me for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.